What we just witnessed from Jamaica at the World Relays was nothing short of calamitous, chaotic, catastrophic. And honestly, I think it's completely unacceptable. Thanks for joining me. The World Relays ended today, and it's the right place to start our show. As usual, it's your show. And anything you'd like to discuss, please drop them in the comments and we'll get to them on as soon as we can. We put them up on the screen. And do me a favor and drop a like as well. Before I go into it this evening, permit me to say Happy Mother's Day and a special one to my own mother. All right, so I want to be judicious in my comments here, but I want to start by saying the World Relays matter. World Athletics has forced us to make sure that this matters. They aren't a sideshow event. They're a critical stage of qualification, very important. 14 of the 16 spots that are available at the World Championships in Tokyo come this semester, this September, the semester is still on my mind, are decided right here. They are decided in China. And I don't know how else to underscore its importance. The rules are really simple. In fact, they make it relatively easy for teams to qualify, especially if you are from renowned, high-profile track and field nations like the United States, like Jamaica, right? You make a final, you qualify. You miss the final, you get another opportunity to come back on day two. So they give you one more shot. So in effect, if you are a traditional powerhouse in track and field, there's literally no excuses not to qualify. And I'm calling out Jamaica in particular here because they're the ones that struggled. The United States, obviously, if they were in a similar situation, we would be making the same claim. And we can get to the United States in a second because they didn't have a fantastic, or actually, I don't think you could even say what the United States did at this World Relays is anything for them to be happy about. They walked away with what? One gold medal. But the important thing for them is that they qualified. So in the grand scheme of things, you should never have a situation where you're not qualifying. In some cases, you should be winning, but we can be reasonable. And thank you everybody for joining me. I see some familiar faces popping in. I'll get to those comments in a second. We can be reasonable and say, hey, you're South Africa, you're China, South Africa pulling up major trees here. Spain, fantastic performances. The real gold medals are given out in September. That's where you have to go and deliver. But some gold medals were up for grabs here, and certainly some of the powerhouse nations didn't take them. But if you didn't take the medals, if you didn't win, we can argue about that. We can make different analyses. We can think about it and say, look, the implication is not that bad as long as you qualify for the World Championships. And in this case, if you're Jamaica, mixed relays, women's 4x4, what? The 4x4 men barely make it. You're sitting also the men's 4x1, and we'll get into that stuff. That's the problem that I'm trying to grapple with after watching this. Is the fact that there's little excuse, and also from the context of Jamaica, it's not new. Let me remind you, last year, there was no Jamaica team for the 4x4 at the Paris Olympics. And there was a bit of a quick rush to try to find a staging event to qualify these athletes. Never really happened. And there were all sort of chatter from different circles and stakeholders arguing about who didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, and out of their depth, and communication with coaches and all of that kind of stuff. And yet this year we go to a championship like this, and it's an utter disaster. Absolute disaster. And I'll get to some of these things in a second. Let me get to a few people who, don't want to leave out some of the good folks here. Mindset is around. I see Top Boy Price. Thanks for joining. Let me get a couple of things here. Mindset, we still seem not to be taking this meet seriously. Why is you and Blake there? It's a very good question. I want to talk a little bit about administratively or organization-wise, like how are you monitoring the space for people to come to a major championships like this? And it's major because you got to qualify for the World Championships. I see you're good to have you. Top Boy Price, Shelly looking good on that relay. I'm got to be honest with you. I have a save a moment for the flowers for Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, because, two backstretch legs there, fabulous. At her age, at what's going on. We can talk about that in a second. Top Boy Price is also, I believe, if Shelly-Ann Anchor, the Jamaica team, would win. This is also another long-standing effort. And this, some of the great things about Fraser-Pryce is that she'll run anywhere. They put her in the leg, she'll do it. And this is a different story. We'll get to that in a second. Mindset, good to have you from London as usual. I know, I remember you saying this. Asira, I never imagined that young British sprinter can run down Jacko, but she did. That was the shocker of the championships for me. Yeah, I gotta tell you, there's nothing in those legs there from Shereeka. You want to give some grace. You want to say she was out last season, injured, ran a 300, ran the first Diamond League, lost the battle in that 200 meters, but there was no kick. There was nothing there, no explosivity. Challenging, very challenging. Yeah, we'll get back to some of those things in a second. So I bring it up, and I'm on the Jamaica thing because you never know. You always want to. You see, what you see is nothing short of shocking, and some people might think it's a rant, but I want to ask some fundamental questions, and we'll tackle them as we go through this. But how is it possible for us to show up at a championship like this? The women's 4x4, what is going on there? Like, clearly Williams, who's not a 400-meter athlete, so you're telling me they can't find a solution for that? She strapped up, barely ran that 400 meters. You could see that she was struggling. She had an injury. So is it a personal issue? And how are you having a personal issue? I want to know the answer. The autopsies have to be run. Why is it a personal issue there? And then there's a second chance attempt, not 340, 54. That is a joke. There's a schoolgirl times. Like, there are places where athletes are running much faster than that. I believe a few of the Jamaican high school championship girls were much better than 340. Now, if it's a personal issue, why is that the case? And also, it cannot be also a personal issue. It has to be, how do you monitor and evaluate the readiness of athletes, right? That is the question in terms of how you organize this. And why is it that they could not field a 4x4 team to try and qualify again? You cannot be serious. That means you could have packed the team with a bunch of other people. You could have private jet. I know I'm going off here now, but there are collegiate athletes who could presumably get away from school for a couple of days if possible. At this stage, you could have packed the team with a couple of high schoolers just to give them experience. If you needed them, you probably wouldn't need them, but in this case, you needed them. It's shocking. I'm got to be honest with you, shocking. Let me go back to some of these comments because I see a bunch of people coming here. A big up clip. Good to see you. All in the game. Big up South Africa, Spain, GB. Yeah, we gotta shout them out. I don't want to, not spend time and evaluate his performance. South Africa instantly, 9th all time on that list, I believe, moving up. Fabulous running there. They're in the form of their lives. We know they've had their championship. Simbini, a monster leg, good exchanges. There are things they can tweak, but fabulous performance from them. Spain, they showed up. And I have to be honest with you, I think all in the game is here at some point. Yeah, he's actually here. We've been back and forth on the organization of a world championships like this, but it showcases that if you are on the fringes, you may not possess certain level of talent in your mix. You can find a way to get on a podium, get some respect, but also qualify early for the world championships and qualify and not worry about it. And then now nation states like Jamaica, which are big powerhouses, are looking out, wondering what's happening. So that's just a very challenging situation to be in. But shout out to Spain, fabulous running. You can't take anything away from these people. They showed up and they did what they're supposed to do. China to qualify in a 4x4. They're doing the things that the situation allows them to do, right? You get spots. And the importance of this is on show. On show. Let me get to a bunch of these comments here. Mine said, why is Johan Blake feeling around for the baton yesterday? You hear reach, you get yours, hands up. Look, I don't know. I still don't look, today, fine, Julian Fort got injured. That happens. Yesterday, not quite sure what the conversation is or what they should have been doing. Johan Blake has been running third legs for years, right? These are experienced guys on the team. It's not a team that you could look at and say it's the first rodeo. It's not. The conditions weren't great. Everyone had the same conditions. It's wet, it's rainy. It was a simple situation. They had to sit down and just talk it out. No matter how many practice they had in good weather, that went out the way. Get that baton around. Make sure it gets to Thompson. I don't know what kind of shape the guys are in, but get it around, at least finish the race. In my mind, they would have qualified from there. You get into the final, you don't need today. And so that's the thing about the US I'm trying to make comparison to. It's a shocking world relays for the United States. But they're going to Tokyo in all the events. The same can't be said for the sprint powerhouse that is Jamaica. And it's a massive question to think about, like, why are these things happening and why is happening in back-to-back years? All in the game is saying deja vu all over. Yeah, exactly. Lance, what's going on? Jackie should run third leg. Shelly should do leg. Yeah, it's anchor, you mean? Yeah, fourth leg. The constitution of the team has always historically been interesting. You can even go back to 1991. At least that's how far back some of my memory might stretch. There's always arguments about how that would go. Structure Barcelona too. Who should, does Merlin always anchor, right? There's all these different arguments you can have, and it went through the years, with VCB, whatever. And there's always some unsaid things and different environments. And was it maybe a decade ago, Fraser-Pryce came out and basically says, I run anywhere. And I think for Harmon, she does it, right? I think if you told her to run the fifth leg on a relay, which doesn't exist, she'll do it. That's the different type of mentality there. But let me tell you something. Again, with all respect to Team GB, to Spain, they have no business beating a Jamaica team that boasts a Fraser-Pryce or a Shereeka Jackson. And I know form is important and all that kind of stuff, but it's just no business doing that stuff. Anyway, let me go back to some of these comments here. I say Nigeria didn't even show up. I strongly believe the quartet of Afili God, but they too were there. Yeah, interesting. They had visa issues, right? we saw teams didn't go in. Bahamas weren't there. Uh, Trinidad and Tobago. It's not a straightforward thing for some people. I think some people may have had some issues getting in. The Botswana stuff is also problematic. No Letsili Tobago and Dori. There's all these infighting that's happening in their with some of those athletes and their federation. So it's not straightforward, but it's challenging. All in the game should have been Shelly, Tina, Shereeka, Tia. Yeah. It I I hear you. I mean, part of me, I'm like, I don't even know about how to think through even the lineup right there, right? It's just, and I agree. I think Jackson on the curve, in her form when she's on top form, you're not running a better curve than her right now. Uh, in the last how many years? Obviously, she has to be in form. She's almost perfected the curve. So I think from an efficiency standpoint, when all said is done, everything is said and done, that's where you want her to be. But yeah, I don't know. Spain was a surprise package of the championship, as you were saying. Yeah, they came out very well, and all credit should go to them. Preparation is key. We've said it before. And if you are veterans and you watch the sport a lot, raw speed can always, in the end, do some tremendous things. But in a relay, efficient baton passes can get you a very long way. And historically, we've seen that teams who can get the stick around in a very good way. You think about the Japanese, a number of occasions finding their way in some interesting places. Out of pure baton thing, and when you unpack the team, the composition of the team, it's you wouldn't bet much on a flat 100 meters in many cases. So yeah, I think it helps that they can prepare, but not only that they can prepare, is that they did it. And I think again, it strikes me as an amateurish operation to come to the World Championships in the World Relays and think you can just show up. You cannot. Nor should you. All in the game is liking that Nigeria line. I think so. I think those Nigeria teams would look good. I think they're quality women there as well. I think, what is it? They're in and out. I think they'll make it, right. Because at the moment they should make it. I don't know 100% if they can. They got to get a team going because I have to look at the list. I think there might be outside of the next two spots on world ranking, but yeah. But it would be good. There's some good talent coming through there for sure. I see Johan should have reached out to Ford. He messed up big time. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what happened there, and if he couldn't hear, or and I suspect you meant today in terms of trying to get the baton pass, or you meant yesterday. Yeah, yeah, that was some good stuff there too, all in the game. I mean, I see there been people all over the place coming through, surprising, good running. The Australian women, I don't know, South Africa collecting stuff on both ends. The serious stuff. Hi Debbie, how you doing? Really good to see you. Audra is saying, hi Audra. The 400-meter runners seldomly make themselves available for selection outside of the major championship. Most of the ladies who ran were actually short sprinters who were being used as a stopgap measure. So that's the problem. We know this. You look at Williams as well, and I don't. At this stage, if that's the case and you can't fill that, you take some high school athletes. I know I'm going way off on this here, but it might as well you do that, right? And if you know their challenge, how is it that you can't figure this out for a while. Who's tracking athlete performances? Because arrangements could be could be made for a few. I know it could be difficult depending on where what universities you might be in. You could This could have been finals week. Uh, this week is definitely finals week at my it was well concluded at my university, but there are other places that are done already. So you could have potentially gotten a few. You got to be keeping the numbers here. I just don't know. You get to day two and you get another shot and you can't even feel a team. Is it that money thing? Are you short? I don't understand. Uh, Syria, the Clayton twins should not have been part of the Jamaica team. They lack experience. It was quite. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I Clayton team. One of the Clayton sisters anchored the Jamaican team at Paris. It doesn't. You don't get a bigger stage like that, and they're not. They're also very. They're really exposed to a lot of relays. I know, especially junior level, you might want to parse that out somewhat, but I'm not quite sure. But I think if you're good enough, you can get on it. I mean, are they in the best shape? I don't know. That's a different question. But the yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's a massive problem here, right? Yeah, Lance, folks, Spain and England not training to win. They to win. They are to what to win. They are to beat Jamaica and USA. Okay, I'm not sure if maybe I'm misreading that, but yeah. All in the game, a couple of Spanish women ran on two different relays about 30 minutes apart. Yeah, that's true. I saw that. So they're doing double work, right? They're making sure that they get to that kind of stuff. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't checked. I don't know why there was if it was a if there was restriction on how many athletes you could bring. I don't know off the top of my head, and I probably should have done the work on that. But I feel like you go to a championship like this, you should, if it's a 4x4, you got to have a minimum 6 women showing up, you know, and got to stack. Stuff can happen, right? You don't want to put yourself in a situation where, someone not feeling it that day. So I can't understand why more people weren't there, right? Why then, if you are struggling to Audra's point for athletes to make themselves available, then why not take the very best 400-meter high school athlete you have as a backup, right? At least they could have run today. It may not have done anything, but at least you get a chance to give it your best shot, and it certainly wasn't happening that way. Clipper saying average 100 PB in a 4x1 relays are 11:12, 11:22, 11:28, 10:76, 10:93. Yeah. Uh yeah. You're also saying Spain absolutely right. Had no business beating US, even if we're yeah. No, that I know it sounds obviously you have to win on the day, and that's sport, and that's probably one of the great things about sport in general. Like sometimes it's unpredictable. Look, would we be surprised if the United States goes to Tokyo and sweep all the relays? No, I think they're probably going to do that or try to do that, right? And but they're there. If you're not there, you can't come back and do something, right? It's very possible that Spain doesn't find anywhere close to any kind of podium, right? It's possible that South Africa could get run off a podium. I doubt it. I very much doubt it. But they may not win, right? But I'm usually not a loss for words, but I think this is a sobering reminder that you have to prepare. You have to have the contingency. And I thought that given what we saw last year, all that kerfuffle and spinning of heads, that you would never go into a situation like this where one, seemingly you're underprepared in terms of a management of how many athletes can show up. At least that was evident in a 4x4. And two, that you wouldn't have things in place to recruit the athletes to get to come over, right? It's the importance of that shouldn't that crucial step shouldn't go unnoticed. We should really think here because what really is at stake is the ability to field teams come September. So what happens if you can't get a men's team into the 4x1 when you possess Elaine Thompson, Oblique Seville, Akeem Blake? There's a lot to unpack there, but that makes you question a lot, right? Women's 4x4 for Jamaica is always a medal podium thing. It's a few occasions, maybe one or maybe once or twice, at least in my lifetime, I can remember them not finding their way on a major podium. So it has to be worked out. Let's see. Thanks for all the comments coming in. I try to get through this. Yeah, I agree with that. I did make that. Debbie Shereeka's form from the 200 I'm having my doubts. Right. Good point. I think I said this a couple weeks ago that I give her a little bit of time. We have to give her some grace. I think all in the game might disagree here because I think he says once you get to May, if we, or maybe he said in the June. I think we're at the same time. I think if you get to June, at least on a individual level, if we get to June and Jackson isn't running sub 22s or very low, getting into that kind of shape, I think there's some cause for concern whether or not she can go to the World Championships and defend. The thing about her, obviously, is that she has a buy into that 200 meters. I'm not sure. I don't know. I suspect they would be doubling. Seems like a thing that we've been doing for a while, but maybe they could change their mind. So there's some time you can get into things. What is it? 2 individual races so far? Is it 2? That 300 meters, that Diamond League in Shaman, and am I missing anything off the top of my head? I can't remember. But yeah, certainly what you saw, at least even when that 200 meters, you didn't see anything that suggests that the speed is there yet and she's actually flooring it or the turnover. But it could be problematic if come the end of this month, which will come very close, if you're not seeing much better performances there. So that would be some cause for concern for sure. Yeah, I agree on that clip. Yeah, there was the third leg. Maybe the order really matters in many respects for sure. Yeah, we'll see. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm just going straight. I'm just doing comments from now on. I guess I don't even know where we are. Serious saying the third leg for the Jamaican women's 4x1 was too heavy during the race. Interesting mindset. There's a notion in Jamaica that places the athletes above critique. Thanks to a certain Olympian, our athletes should only be praised. Any criticism is deemed ungrateful. I'm not quite sure how else to endorse that statement, but to say that when you're in the public eye, you obviously are open for criticism. This is how it works, and the very best always have to take criticism. Abuse is a different thing. If you're being abused, then obviously no one has time for that, and I definitely don't support that. But I think there are standards, and there's a lot of questions. I think the questions that come out here before you even zoom into the athletes has to come from the organizers, right? You have to ask questions about the selection team, the preparation getting there. And from what I saw, everyone was thinking that they're excited, but I don't know. It's always marketing. And if you think there's abuse there, there's always abuse. Not abuse. If you think there's criticism, for years they're always criticizing the U.S. relay structure, even when they win. I'm sure, you know, if the U.S. goes out and break the world record tomorrow, Carl Lewis will be critiquing something, right? So it comes with the territory. It comes with that's how sport works. I I guess if we go back to even the earlier point, what Audrey was saying about people making themselves available, ultimately, and most people say this in the sport because the way in which the sport is designed and in terms of the payment structure and what it does for you individually, because fundamentally track and field is an individual sport. It just so happens that at these championships you have relays, which from a fan perspective is exciting, but athletes sometimes don't think about that, depending on who you are. I think if you are on the cusp type of athlete, if you want to make sure you walk away with medals or so, you might have a bigger interest. But if certain athletes, they couldn't care less. Like, I think that's what you saw in particular too with even some of the superstar athletes from the United States. They didn't show up. You know, Kung Fu is everywhere. Shout out to him. But that so they still think individual first, and then they'll figure that out later on for them. I think ultimately what they do personally, and I think that's what most athletes would tell you, especially if they have relationships with shoe companies or apparel companies, it usually it stems from what kind of performances they deliver in terms of getting to finals, medaling, winning, larger impact than say a collective endeavor like a relay. Also, on a side note, I've said this before. I am not a fan of the mixed 4x1. I think it's a joke, kind of a relay. And I don't think anything will change my mind on that. It's bound to have problems. I think I said this months ago. It's gonna have more. I think even going into whenever you would get to see it next year in the Ultimate Championship, and then it would also make its way into the LA Olympics. I think it's going to be a problem. I think I've been on record, and some of you here we've commented or gone back and forth on the chat that it would better serve an additional relay would better serve a more medley style relay, not the medley styles that you see at say Penn's, but maybe what you see at the Jamaica high school championships. You would give more athletes a chance to run some, especially athletes who run 800 meters. They could get in the mix too. I don't really see any need for a mix 4x1 anyway. Yeah. All in the game. WVN ran 44:08, 44:17 just 2 years ago. That's Wade Van Niekerk you're talking. If South Africa can get him back in that shape one more time, would be very good bonus to their already impressive 4x4 for sure. I mean, we saw Wade coming back recently, and I thought he would have. When was it? In Budapest, we were thinking he could have gotten on the podium, and it never happened, right? And yeah, if he can get back to some semblance of that kind of runs, they're in good stead. I think South Africa is also seeing a bunch of athletes coming through, but also people like Akini Sambini still there in a largely on top as one of the elder statespersons there, and that must be a good motivating factor there. And yeah, hopefully, we'll see what we get there. Media mindset: the Clayton twins did as well or better than the so-called top stars. A serious and one thing that's certain: 90% of the countries that medal at the championships will struggle to reach a final in Tokyo because the big guns will come to the party. And again, that's the thing, and why now it's important, right? So for some of you, this is why I'm telling you cannot go to the world championships and not take it seriously, because you're gonna lose to some people who want to collect a medal, because at the end of the day they will walk away and their Wikipedia page will say world relay, And it's going to be a nuanced argument from people about the value of the world relay medal, but they will have it. And they also know that when the United States fills out a proper team, and you hope Jamaica, if they can qualify in the rest, and you know, GB will be better, Canada will probably look better again. There's some teams there will just not function well or feature well rather when it comes for the medals. But actually they're there. And who's to say that the fact that they're there now, maybe this gives them a level of confidence to say, we'll keep our team, we'll have a lot of relay camps, and we'll try to execute as best as possible. I don't know. Maybe they'll do this. Audrey saying most of the high schoolers are, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Here am I not thinking about that. See, I'm far removed from that, Audrey. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. All in the game. Have to mention the severe lack of conditioning of a couple of the young Jamaican female sprinters. Two in particular are overweight. It's unprofessional. I'm glad you said it. You look at some of the conditioning from a eye test, because the eye test sometimes can be wrong across the board, and you wonder. I mean, you even look at was it the Portuguese team? Was it Portuguese? Yeah, they had a woman there that you're like, is that it's not the conditioning that you might see later on in the season. Why this the case? I don't know. Yeah, why I don't know. I think I know, but I don't want to get in trouble all in the game. Shereeka Clip is saying Shereeka doesn't have the explosiveness in her sprinting anymore. Not sure if it's just not ready to display it or if she's unable. I don't. Potentially not ready. I imagine how when she suffered that hamstring injury just before the Olympics, we didn't see her at all. She didn't feature at the Olympics. Pulled out of the one, then ultimately pulled out of the two. Had a downtime. I imagine that would have been enough time for healing and repairs if they had to do any work, which they didn't disclose. And then kind of get back into the season. So I maybe they haven't done the kind of work yet to get back to that level. I don't know. To extract that, clearly the ground force that kind of stuff isn't there. It's just not sharp enough, and it looks like she's just running within herself as well, trying to stay relaxed. We saw that in the 200 meters a few weeks ago. Let's hope it's just that it will come, but it probably needs to start coming soon if you're going to feature, if you're going to try and defend your title. I think to get on the podium, you got to be in a 21-8. That probably most certainly will put you on the podium. It's always done. I think Gabby Thomas is having a season so far of her life. There's some competitive stuff in the 200 meters I expect from a bunch of other athletes. It would be great if she could get back to a sub 21 7 shape, then almost certainly she'll walk in as favorite, and I think she would win. Because some of the fast times, you haven't really seen from everyone consistently. She's the only one that can deliver those type of times, all those world-beating, all-time great times consistently, and she's done it consistently well. So if she can get back to some kind of a shape where that kind of sprinting execution is at top level, then she shouldn't have a problem. She doesn't need to get anywhere close to 21-4 because no one, I think, around right now can get to those kind of levels. I'm very even skeptical that anybody can even get to 21-5 levels that's currently running. Having said that, someone might just do it this year, but So I think we can get back some normalcy in the 200 meters where you find women going sub 22, and if you can grab a few sub 21 eights and low 21 eights and 21 sevens, then that's gold medal territory there. Because in a way we have to kind of we have to put what Jackson did in a box, and it's just never happened like that, right? And she's been ridiculous at those levels, that from a couple world championships all the way up to what would have been a crowning moment last year, which never happened for injury. So you hope that she gets back, and we'll see where that goes. Let me get back to the comments because they're coming in here. Shereeka says may not be shot. It's a possibility. Yeah. It's hard to know, right? You have to see a full season where she's healthy. Because the question is, how healthy is she, right? How is she responding to the load? I imagine they would have been doing a lot of load. They probably haven't really done any 100-meter kind of explosive work, just out of precaution, but I don't know. The thing is, those athletes tend to peak at the world championships all the time, so we'll have to wait and see. But it's not the Shereeka Jackson that we are used to. And if we're being honest, of Shereeka Jackson of that we saw in Budapest, or even the Shereeka Jackson that we saw in Tokyo in 21, that kind of form when she hadn't even gone to, she was still hovering like in the 10-7s there. That Shereeka Jackson would have passed those athletes and beat them by 2 meters. So I think there's a fitness level there. You can lose your speed, you can never get it back, but usually that is because the body has given up on you, right? You can't do the work that comes with it. That comes, the work that's required to extract that kind of stuff. Well, if that happens, then usually you you have to call a career. You put it to a close, right? But it's too early. I don't know if we can make that call until we see some more. Yeah. Seriously, Jax has a lot of time to get fit. I remember that ETH didn't even win the Jamaican trials in 21. She peaked late and went on to set an Olympic record. Jackson has plenty of time to peak. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the thing. It's not her abilities. I don't want to put her in the same category as a great man, right? But we've seen, like, when Usain Bolt basically walked up to a few championships late and still delivered. That night when he pipped Kathleen in the rain comes to mind. London, he got beat twice by Blake at the Jamaican National Championships. So there is space in the calendar, and the World Championships is in September. So there's a lot of time left, assuming that she's not struggling with any injuries. If there are injuries in the mix, then there's a different type of story, right? Yeah. Mindset: I can't see Jamaica winning any gold medals in any of the sprint races come World Championships. Call me negative. Still early to make that claim, but I don't know. Yeah. I can't exercise the prediction game this early, to be honest with you. Mindset: it's a bit early to make that. Yeah. Clip is responding to all in the game here, so I'll just leave that one. I see a fully fit ETH is unbeatable by any of the current generation of female sprinters. Yeah, I suspect that Elaine is gone, though. No. I see her. A lot of us. Let me see. I don't mean it in a pejorative way or anything like that. You're supposed to get slow as you age. That's how it works. There are a few people who buck that trend. And then there are some people who are once in a lifetime that can do some things at an age that you're like, what in the world is happening? That's like a Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Already wins already won a couple world titles at a very the oldest person to get those world titles, right? Twice. And if she who knows if she had something different last year, should have been second to Merlin to ever like get an Olympic medal if she can get on a podium, right? So we can't like look at those people and kind of put them in that kind of category. So, and if you think about an athlete like Elaine, it's challenging for her because she's struggled with a lot of injuries over her lifetime as an athlete. So can she come back and get out and get back on a podium? Yeah, I think it's possible, but it depends on if they figured out the right circumstances, if she doesn't get injured. Those are the kind of calculus. And I think everyone goes through that kind of stuff. But as you get older, the niggles come more often. The recovery is harder. It's much harder. So then it requires a different level of discipline. I'm not saying people aren't disciplined, but it requires a reshaping of that attention to detail much more than you probably would have done at 21 if you want to stay longer. People start to introduce things when they start to these self experiments. So sometimes they may not work. They try all sort of different things, the gadgets and different types of exercises and recovery methods, which maybe sometimes is a mental thing. It's maybe not robustly tested, but they do all sort of stuff just to stay in the game. And then you have to have a steely determination to say, I want to still be here. So that's why I often wonder, like, if Fraser-Pryce would take away the last crumb of bread from all of us, if it's right on the floor, because why on earth would she be doing this at this level still and trying to run? We'll see her this weekend in Doha. I'm like, why? I'm loving it still because you still want to see it, but it takes something to stick around that long, right? So I don't know if that will happen for the vast majority of a number of athletes, right? And when the injuries start to kick in and the body doesn't respond, we've now seen a lot of athletes before 30 are calling it quits. So I don't know. Yeah. Mindset is probably a good thing Kishane didn't run, especially the first day with the rain and the cold. He might have pulled something. I don't know if he would. I mean, I think that's hard to make a claim there. I think if you warm up well enough, it's possible, unless he was carrying something or feeling tight. But I don't. I'm not sure I think that. Mbomo, Asira saying Mbomo would have been the one to shatter the 21 threes. Yeah, that won't happen. And yeah, we all know that long story. All in the game again. Elaine, who's about to turn 33, hasn't run quicker than 10.79 and 21.97 in the last 3 years. So yeah, that would have been in not in Doha, in Eugene, right? People need to seriously lower the expectation as to what to expect if and when she finally runs. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think at this stage we have to remember a lot of athletes are retired by now too, right? So how can we put it this way? The Elaine we saw in Tokyo, I'm fairly confident you'll never see again. It's just not gonna happen. You can't. She just can't. I don't think under any circumstances she can get the body back to that level. And if you bring Fraser-Pryce into it, like running 10-6 much older than when she was younger, I think you have to think about the kind of injuries that one would have had versus the other. I think that Elaine is never going to show up. Can you get an Elaine that could still run 10-8, probably even 10-7s? It's very possible. 21-5, I can't see it. That's never happening, you know. So I don't even know if you can get an Elaine that would successfully double. And the reason why I'm saying that, not successfully double as in winning, just try that as even as a thing, is because it's a lot of work to do the double. And when you constantly pick up niggles, which sometimes you have no control over, other times you might have control over it, but you only figure it out after it happens. And so then it doesn't really matter. That probably is too much. My suspicion is that she just probably wants to get another shot to go back to another world championship, maybe try to get on a podium. Who knows? Try to win something, which is not easy, and you know, and leave on the terms that you want. But we'll have to see. Yeah. Uh, Mine said, how much of the blame should the J3s get for the abject performance? Probably a lot. I think the organization matters. You can still have the best planning and things don't go right. They don't coach the athletes, right? That's for one, but you have to have better systems in place to identify. And perhaps some we're being critical. And you don't have everything, but is this the best composition that you could have come out here with? Those are some question marks still to be answered. The original BI Strong, them days long gone, boss. Now I'm not sure if it was to me or to others. The comments are coming, so I forgive me if I don't line them up the right way. Mindset would say, I wouldn't even mention Elaine. I seriously think her decision to leave front and be trained by her husband was her demise. Yeah, we've discussed that long time. Those days you can't get back. Debbie, do you think the men's 4x1 will get another chance to qualify? No, that's a good question. They better find a way. It's not, well, I was about to say it's not hard, but that would be the laugh of the joke of the century. At this moment, I think if you are the communications manager, the liaison person in the J3 as the president, you need to be on the phone with every meet. You need to be on the phone with your data person right now. Who's the data person? Every meet that's available. You need to run something that can, you need to touch all the coaches. Can we get Oblique Seville, Kishane Thompson, Akeem Blake, at the very least, in at a similar meeting right now? You can't wait until Jamaica Championships. Don't do that kind of nonsense. You have to find a way to run some relays. Right now, can you try to find a team that can run at this? What's coming up? There's Atlanta City games this weekend. I don't know. I mean, like, find some events. You have to do something. You got to put on some meets, invite some people, because you need to get to the World Championships. I it because a lot of answers here. I don't really know. A lot of answers. Right now, Jamaica is outside of the ranking currently. I think the best they have so far is like 38, 40 and change, I think 45. That's no running. Right? I think Nigeria ahead. I think the Dutch might be ahead. These things might change. Get a composition of team and go sub 38 as soon as you can. You got to run something really nice. I think you can get a 37. I suspect a 37.9 should get you in. Maybe a 37.8. You want to be on the safe side. But can you find the team and a meet to do it? That's what you have to do. They need to. The women need to find a way to qualify as well for the 4x4. Those are usually, if you get the things right, they can find a way on a medal podium, right? It's very difficult to win the women's 4x4. No one is beating the US, and then the Dutch will always come up now with Femke Bol doing something special. But there are medals up for grabs that you should be getting at a world championship. And you cannot go down the line of not getting teams to be competitive in these spaces, because it's like an unraveling of the standards. When you set high bars, you got to be on somebody's neck to continually get them. It should be, and I know you can have glory days, and I know you can talk about cyclical stuff, but I don't want to talk about cyclical stuff anymore. You just got to get things right. You think about, we've been talking about cycles for West Indies cricket for, don't even get me started, right? So got to do something. All in the game in 33, all Elaine, given her injury history, isn't touching 10-5 or 21-5 again. People need to understand that. Yeah, I agree with that. It's done. Robert, how are you? Hopefully, Shereeka is working with a sports psychologist to get her mindset on track. Maybe you got to elaborate on this. I'm not quite sure I see anything that suggests there's something mentally wrong, uh, unless you're saying maybe athletes can come back from injury. So that's a good point you might be making on the sports psychologist side. When you're healthy, you don't know if you're healthy until your mind tells you you're healthy. This is a kind of a running thing sometimes the sports psychologists people like to talk about. You get back, but you're afraid that you may re-injure yourself, even though all the tests, all the things that you might be doing suggest that you're back to normal. It takes some time to recover from that, and it can play a mind. So yeah, I think you might be onto something here. Hopefully that's not the case. I don't know. Yeah. The original BI Strong says most athletes don't stay on top two Olympic cycles. Shelly and is not normal this way. Yeah, Fraser-Pryce is different. You never see the like. It can't happen. That kind of I can't. That person isn't born to deliver as many accomplishments right now. She's just different, you know. Yeah. And she's different class. No, it's true. And I guess you have a bunch of other comments here. Uh, all in the game. The focus is all on the short sprints, but what about the woeful performances of the quarter milers in general? How much time we have? I don't know. I don't understand what McDonald did in the first leg. What McDonald did the first race, and certainly I don't. I just don't understand. I think I'm rehashing a point that we've made all the time, but for the life of me, I don't understand why on a given the rich history of the country when it comes to 400 meters, you know, you can go back to London and Helsinki, and for the life of me, and you go all the way into the 80s with the Burt Cameron and so on, and 90s you have McDonnell and Martin and Davy and Clark, all of these guys on the men's side, and not to mention the women. You know, it's just all. But the women, we don't. I'm less critical of because they always find a way. Is that it should be a steady cadre of, I would say, 10 men who are giving you mid to low 44s. The diet of that should be just there all the time. And then you get maybe a couple that can be very low and squeaking below a 44. The history and the ability to do it, because I think the talent is there. It's whether or not they want to work hard enough. Because you see a lot of these 400 athletes that come through the high school system and you see them in college. But to get to that next step or consistently run the times required to be world class and be competing for the major titles, it's a lot of work. And you have to want to do this, right? And we've seen a cycle of guys who've retired before time that you would think, you know, you think about your Nathan Allens or Hakeem Bloomfields, those guys are gone with more ability than you think that ever really showcased on a global level. It's bad. The state of the 400 meters. It should be much better than that. That's all I can say. Valentino Rivera said, at the end of the day, the mission was completed, qualified for world championships. In respect to what? You mean if it's the United States, they're like, you know, mission completed. You can get, you know, George W. Bush coming in on an aircraft carrier for that. But for the Jamaican team, no. Yeah, women are there. So I'm fine. I'm not fully fine with that. They couldn't win this 4x1, but they went there and they qualified. The men figured it out in the end in the 4x4, just barely. That got it was just barely, but they did. Mixed relay, forget about it. And now you have to find a way to qualify a 4x1 men team that, on paper, if all of those guys are fit, are really high quality sprinters that can get to major championship finals and certainly can get on the podium. Elaine Thompson did it last year, and Oblique Seville has the ability, but that's a different question. And they're sitting on the outside right now waiting. And likewise for a 4x4 team of a Jamaican women that in almost every major championship finds their way around the medal podium somehow. No job done there. Top brass. I believe Shelly has some more 10-6 in her leg. I don't know. I can't. Nah. If that happens, nah. I can't see that. But, I'd love to see it, but I just can't. That can't happen. At her age, 10-6? Nah. That would be outrageous. All in the game again. Yeah, Elaine was basically only running the 100 and 4x1 global championships going forward. Will basically only run going forward like Shelly has been doing. Yeah. You have to kind of pick your battles too if you want to stick around. Your body can't go through those things. And if people can do that, then AIU and everybody should be at your door much more frequently. Speaking of that, they've now made the passport is being tested right now for sprinters. For, as many of you might be aware, for a long time the biological passport has been available for distance runners, where they can do different markers and check oxygen levels in the blood, stuff around EPO and all of that. For sprinters, much more difficult, and they've been working on something like that. So moving forward, you might start to see that get rolled out at some point. But that's just a side note there. Yeah, let's get back to some more of the comments here. Jamaica has Nikisha Price, Shereeka Young, but the athletes they selected for the 4x women's 4x4 totally shocking. Yeah, I think Audrey was also saying that getting the selection right and people making themselves available is difficult. A lot. I will say it's not only a Jamaica thing, because a lot of the athletes that they wanted to put in the US pool also pulled out from going to China. So it's just that they have more depth and they figured it out anyway. So I don't think they'll be happy that they only walked away with a gold medal, but they'll come back stronger, I think. Nadine, how you doing? Blake, see that his team I think you were saying mate was injured and Blake still run. I guess he meant run left the baton. Yeah, I don't know. I guess how much in the zone he was there. I haven't gotten I don't know the answers on that one. Today injuries happen. Yesterday I'm more critical about yesterday, because I think with safer passing they would have been in a good position to qualify automatically. So I will that's my problem there. The original BI Diamond League will have 4x1 at least 2 meets. Yeah, but is the question, can you get them there? Will they be at those meets? So to get the team, that's the problem. Mindset. Zidran Barnes ran the team into qualification with his leg. The others were just about par. I agree on that. All in the game, Antonio Watson hasn't run a sub 45.6 in 2 years. That's very challenging, but certainly true. Don't know what. Yeah, he's been injured a lot. Yeah. Look, those 2 KC boys could have run much better legs than the rest of those guys today. Maybe outside of Barnes for sure. But they're in school, so all in the game. On paper, a team of Nikisha, Candice, Shereeka, Stacey, and should be consistently winning a silver behind the United States and ahead of Netherlands and GB and GB. I got to give you like thumbs up for that. I have nothing else to say, but that's actually true. That's No question. That you're right on that. Yeah, definitely right on that. Yeah. So it's been one of those days. I think I got down to the comments. Uh, yeah, it's shocking. I know at the top of the show I use harsh language. I thought it was calamitous, chaotic in a sense. Also confusing. Didn't say that, but I think it's confusing in the sense of the some clarity needed on the organization, what the expectations were, who decided not to come, who you had, what were the backup plans, how many athletes you brought. Those are some serious things to consider. Because you could walk away not winning anything, not getting any medals, but if you had qualified all the teams to the World Championships, we would still complain, and rightly so, given the pedigree of the country that you anticipate should be in the mix, especially in the sprint stuff. Well, in all of those relays, they should be in the mix. But you would walk away saying, at least there's a chance to fix it. So we can walk away saying there's a chance to fix the women's 4x1. You'll have a personnel that qualifies and they'll do their best there, I imagine. The men's 4x4, you hope that as the season progresses, you might get some better athletes in better form. But for the rest, you're now looking to see if they can qualify. And that's very challenging. And that shouldn't be the situation you want to be in at this stage. You should be walking away disappointed in performances and maybe not getting beat by some nation states that wouldn't be able to do so come September. But you have to be at the World Championships to win or to get on a podium. And those are challenging times. Again, we should not undervalue teams like Spain, China finding their way in a 4x4, the beautiful stuff we saw from South Africa, because they understood the assignment and they recognized the importance of not only qualifying, but also winning. And what South Africa did, you hope they can repeat that in the World Championships, because if they can't run a 37.6 in the World Championships, we might ask some serious questions. But I suspect they might be able to do that, and they should be able to do that. Debbie saying the JAA and the JONA needs to have a plan A, B for that. They need plan A, B, C, and probably D. You know, I think I try to be charitable the way I say things, and I think I don't want to ever come off as the person who is looking to get to just zone in on when people are down or sensationalize things, but I don't know any other way to look through this. It's bad, and you cannot have this. Not when you say this is your national sport, and again, there has to be better organization of these things. Yeah, so you hope. Clip says, really impressed with China on the 4x4. They deserve that. They fought hard. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Debbie. She totally agree. Allingham was impressed by the 800-meter runner, Kamara Ferguson, third leg. Yeah, he did run well. Ran one of the best legs across the entire field. Should be involved in the 4x in Tokyo at the men's 4x4. Yeah, no, I agree on that. Also, great stuff. I should say this. You guys may have seen Yaroslav and Manuchik there while going 202. Lovely to see that. Always jumping well. I don't know if she'll get back up to world record territory this year, but I wouldn't put it past her. And obviously, Patterson and Olislager is always doing well. Lots of track and field this week. There's when is Doha? Friday, I think, or so. There's stuff on the weekend. Lots of stuff coming up. All right, guys. It was my pleasure. I wanted to talk about some more stuff, but I'm gonna jump off. I wish everybody a happy Mother's Day if you're a mother or if you're serving that capacity, and hopefully you had a good Sunday. And again, really appreciate you coming on the channel. Continue to put stuff in the comments. I'll be back. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow, but I'll be back more often starting these couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll get over this and we'll see some good performances back again. Yeah, I never got a chance to even unpack my last assessment of the last Grand Slam track. Let's just say I hope that they can they can get enough people to get into Franklin Field. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. Clip take here. All in the game is saying Cherokee Young has posted anything track related since August 24. Something weird going on there. Interesting. I hasn't. Yeah, I don't know that we probably need to get into that. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll catch up with you another time. Bye-bye.